So it seems like Activision, Treyarch and Raven Software are very secretive about what the attachments do to the Cold War weapons inside Warzone. And the biggest question we get asked here on the channel is about the Task Force barrel and increasing damage. So finally in this video we're going to answer that question, and we're also going to take a look at any other hidden stats that the Task Force barrel might have. If you enjoy videos like this, breaking down weapons, breaking down attachments, weapon comparisons and overall tips and tricks for Warzone, subscribe to our channel as we're trying to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers. If you enjoy this video or if you learn something new, don't forget to leave us a like, as it took us a long time to test all these attachments. So to answer the question about damage first of all, because it is the easier question to answer, does it increase damage? So for every weapon we tested in this video, it does not increase damage whatsoever at close range. Now at longer distances it could increase damage, but to be completely honest, it's extremely unlikely. So just to repeat that again, the Task Force barrel at close range does not increase damage for any of the following weapons in this video. Now we're going to get into some of the more interesting stuff about the Task Force barrel. Now we do know from some other content creators that the Task Force barrel does increase bullet velocity by quite a lot for a lot of different guns. And the same goes for the guns that we've tested in this video as well. But if you want to see any of those kind of videos, we'll link them down in the description down below, because a lot of other content creators have put their time and effort into testing this as well. So I don't want to repeat their video, but the main thing I wanted to focus on here was recoil. Because the one thing that caught my attention is that with the Task Force barrel, it reduces the horizontal recoil of the FFAR1 significantly. So does it do the same for any of the other Cold War weapons in this game? And that is what we tested for this video. So the first two weapons we tested was the Groza and the XM4, and you can see the Groza in green, the XM4 in blue, the Task Force barrels are on the right and the base weapons are on the left. And you can see for the Groza, if you use a Task Force barrel, it does also significantly reduce that horizontal recoil, or that curved S-shape. The red line was plotted on the first bullet that was fired with both the base weapon or the Task Force barrel, and it just shows how far away the recoil pattern goes away from the center, just to give you an idea of how much it curves. Now for the XM4 I didn't plot this line because it doesn't seem like it was doing anything for that gun particularly. But for the Groza, you can see it's a huge difference. It does reduce that horizontal recoil quite a bit. Also, another thing to keep in mind here is that we only use the Task Force barrel. If you did stack other attachments, it could make these recoil patterns a lot nicer. But for the next two guns, we have the Krig and the FFAR1. And again, we can see that it has a significant difference on both the Krig and the FAR. Because the Krig doesn't have a lot of vertical recoil, if you're firing the Krig by itself, you probably wouldn't notice this all that much. But when you see it plotted on screen, you can definitely see that the Task Force barrel helps with that horizontal recoil. And the one weapon we do all know it works for is the FFAR1. Now it doesn't look hugely significant from what you see on screen here, because you'd usually stack it with maybe the Field Agent 4 grip as well, which would help even further, but you can definitely see that it's reducing that S-curve. Next we tested the QBZ and the Cold War AK-47. The Cold War AK-47 has a terrible recoil pattern to begin with, and it doesn't really get any better with the Task Force barrel. But you can see that with the QBZ, there is a significant benefit in horizontal recoil with a Task Force barrel. So far on assault rifles, this seems to be working pretty consistently at reducing that horizontal recoil, but what you can notice is that it does increase the vertical recoil for the gun as well. So you're getting a reduction to horizontal recoil, but you're sacrificing that vertical recoil. In my opinion, vertical recoil is easier to manage because you can just pull down on your analog stick or your mouse, and it's much easier to manage than horizontal recoil, so I would think this is a huge benefit for any weapon. And unfortunately, the consistency kind of stops with the assault rifles. Now, if you do move on to the LMGs, so now you can see the M60 as well as the RPD on the screen here as well, and you can see that the Task Force barrel doesn't really help out the RPD. It seems like it's actually making it worse. The M60 doesn't really benefit from this because it doesn't have a lot of vertical recoil anyway. So just a quick recommendation here, if you do struggle with vertical recoil, the M60 could be your best friend. Lastly, for the LMGs, we did test the Stoner as well, and you can see it does kind of still help with that horizontal recoil. Because the Stoner's recoil pattern is very easy to manage as it goes straight up, you can still see a bit more consistency in the shots with the Task Force barrel. It's definitely bouncing around from side to side a lot less with the Task Force barrel. Remember I was talking about that S-shaped curve? It seems like it only helps significantly for guns that do have that S-shaped curve. If your gun goes vertically upwards like the Stoner or upwards and to the right like the XM4, it's not going to make a huge difference to your recoil pattern. Now I kind of wanted to stop my testing here because no one really uses SMGs in a really far distance anyway to notice the recoil, but the only one gun that stood out to me significantly was the MAC-10. And that is because a lot of people do tend to use this at a distance, and it also does have that S-shaped curve recoil pattern. So here's what that looks like on screen for anyone who is interested, and it doesn't seem like the Task Force barrel helps that horizontal recoil with the MAC-10. This is quite disappointing, as I feel like this is a gun that would benefit hugely from that horizontal recoil reduction. Then again, it could have made the gun a bit overpowered because it would have a very vertical recoil pattern, and the gun is already pretty easy to control as it is. I just wanted to test it out to see if it would help out the MAC-10, and clearly it doesn't. So just to summarise, the Task Force barrel does not give you a damage increase. It does help your horizontal recoil at the sacrifice of your vertical recoil. If you're using an assault rifle from Cold War, by all means use this attachment, it is great. A gun like the FFAR-1, the Krig, or even the Groza will benefit significantly from this attachment. No doubt in the future, when they add more DLC assault rifles with that S-shaped recoil pattern, it'll help those guns as well. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave us a like, as it takes us a while to compile stats like this. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as we're trying to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers, and thank you very much for watching.